There's a quiet discontent humming beneath the lives of modern women, one that success, freedom, and self-love hashtags can't drown out. The truth is uncomfortable. Many women today have everything their grandmothers ever dreamed of: education, independence, money, choice. And yet they're lonelier, more anxious, and less fulfilled in relationships than ever before. The problem isn't capability, it's contradiction. Society told women they could be anything, but never warned them that doing everything might make intimacy feel impossible. They were taught to want equality, but conditioned to still crave polarity. To want a man who's both safe and thrilling, supportive yet dominant, emotionally intelligent but not needy. That's not hypocrisy. It's human biology colliding with modern ideology. The dating landscape promised liberation but delivered exhaustion. Swipe culture made love feel like shopping and connection feel like performance. Every choice is endless, yet satisfaction is scarce. The emotional cost? A generation of women who are strong but starving. For simplicity, safety, and surrender, they're no longer allowed to admit they want. They don't fear loneliness. They fear judgment for wanting love that doesn't need explanation. Beneath empowerment lies burnout. Beneath confidence lies confusion. And beneath independence lies a whisper most women won't say out loud: "I'm tired of doing this alone." But in a culture that mistakes vulnerability for regression, admitting that truth feels like betrayal. Modern women didn't fail at relationships. The system failed them by telling them fulfillment was a solo project. Freedom was never meant to replace connection, it was meant to enhance it. And until that paradox is reconciled, no amount of achievement will make the emptiness disappear. The mechanism behind modern female unhappiness in relationships is a perfect storm of emotional dissonance, the gap between what women are told they should want and what their nervous systems are actually wired to crave. Biologically, women are designed for connection, safety, and trust, three things modern dating quietly ridicules. Culturally, they're told to chase autonomy, ambition, and constant self-sufficiency. The result? Internal conflict dressed up as empowerment. She's torn between her instincts and her ideology. One part of her longs to be met, led, and cherished. The other part refuses to need anyone. When she finally meets a man who's emotionally available, she often doesn't feel attraction. Because attraction thrives on polarity, not parity. It's not about dominance or submission. It's about energy. Two people can be equal in worth but opposite in expression. But the modern narrative collapsed that nuance, teaching women that independence and intimacy are mutually exclusive. The more she builds her walls of self-reliance, the fewer men can climb them. And the ones who can are often the ones she won't respect. Add to that the overstimulation of choice, dating apps, social media, endless options, and her brain becomes addicted to novelty, unable to bond deeply with what's familiar. The mechanism feeds itself. The more disconnected she feels, the more she doubles down on control, yet the more she controls, the less she connects. It's not that modern women don't want love, they just don't trust what it requires: surrender, uncertainty, and imperfection. The paradox is brutal. She's free, but she's frightened. Capable, but disconnected. Desired, but deeply unseen. And that's the real trap. A generation that mistook independence for intimacy and now can't tell the difference between strength and self-isolation. She's the woman who swore she'd never settle, and she hasn't. But somehow, every man she meets feels smaller than the dream she built in her head. She dates, she deletes, she re-downloads the apps. Her nights are full of conversation, but empty of connection. He's nice, he's stable, he texts back, but she feels nothing. Another one tries harder, compliments her constantly, says all the right things, and she still feels restless. Deep down, she's chasing a feeling she can't name. The chemistry that once came effortlessly now feels extinct. Then there's the woman in a long-term relationship who has everything she thought she wanted. A man who listens, provides, and respects her space. But when he reaches for her, she recoils. When he doesn't, she resents him. She tells herself she's not in the mood, but what she really means is she doesn't feel polarity. The relationship has become democratic, when what she secretly craves is dynamic. Another woman throws herself into her career to fill the silence. She tells her friends she's happy being single, but every achievement feels a little less satisfying than the last. She scrolls through other people's lives at night, smiling couples, family trips, Sunday rituals, and tells herself she's above it. But the envy lingers. Modern women aren't broken. They're exhausted from pretending that connection is optional. They've been told that needing a man makes them weak, yet every song, movie, and fantasy still whispers that love is where life begins to make sense. The dissonance between that truth and the narrative she's sold leaves her numb. So she keeps performing strength while secretly craving softness. And when she finally admits it, she's accused of regression. That's not liberation. It's loneliness rebranded. At its core, the unhappiness of modern women in relationships is biological chaos wearing cultural lipstick. For most of human history, a woman's nervous system evolved around connection. Belonging wasn't optional, it was survival. The female brain releases oxytocin during intimacy, conversation, and even eye contact, binding emotion and attachment at a cellular level. But in the modern era, women are told to suppress that instinct, to detach, to protect their energy, to keep control. The problem is, control and connection activate opposing systems in the body. You can't be in fight or flight and feel safe at the same time. When a woman is perpetually in independence mode, her cortisol stays elevated. Her nervous system reads intimacy as risk, and peace begins to feel like weakness. Psychologically, she's caught between ancient wiring and modern ideology. On one hand, she's told she doesn't need anyone. On the other, her biology keeps craving what only interdependence can provide. This is why so many women feel anxious even when life looks perfect. They're living in emotional contradiction, wired for closeness, trained for competition. Add in constant stimulation from social media and work stress, and the bonding chemistry that once made love feel natural now feels foreign. Her system has been hijacked. The dopamine she used to get from connection now comes from achievement. Validation became her new intimacy, and metrics became her new affection. The tragedy isn't that women have become too strong. It's that they've been tricked into believing strength requires isolation. When your biology craves closeness, but your culture rewards distance, every relationship feels like betrayal, either to yourself or to the story that made you believe you had to survive alone. The signs that a modern woman is quietly unhappy in her relationships aren't loud. They're subtle, polished, and often Instagrammable. The first is emotional fatigue. She's not bitter. She's just tired of trying to prove she's fine. Every date, every conversation, every "I'm good" is a small performance she doesn't believe anymore. The second is control addiction. She micromanages affection, communication, and timing because control feels safer than vulnerability. The third is achievement substitution. When love disappoints, she doubles down on goals. Promotions become her new intimacy. Validation replaces connection. The fourth is emotional self-sufficiency. She swears she doesn't need anyone, yet scrolls through couples online at 2 a.m., wondering why she feels hollow. The fifth is romantic ambivalence. She wants love but resents the part of herself that does. The sixth is hyper-independence. She mistakes detachment for strength and isolation for peace. The seventh is comparison fatigue. She measures her worth against filtered happiness, forgetting that joy doesn't photograph well. The eighth is narrative distortion. She rewrites every heartbreak as empowerment, never allowing herself to grieve. The ninth is intimacy anxiety. When someone truly sees her, she pulls away, afraid they'll find the part of her that still longs for safety. And the final sign is emotional numbness. Not sadness, but the quiet emptiness of a heart that has learned to want nothing rather than risk disappointment again. These aren't flaws, they're defense mechanisms. They're the price of trying to stay strong in a world that equates softness with surrender. The tragedy is that the modern woman isn't afraid of love, she's afraid of what she might have to let go of to feel it again. The women who rediscover happiness don't do it by rejecting strength, they do it by redefining it. The first countersignal is emotional permission. She stops pretending that independence means isolation. She realizes that needing connection doesn't cancel self-respect, it completes it. The second is surrender without submission. She allows herself to soften without losing her boundaries. Vulnerability becomes a strategy, not a setback. The third is nervous system repair. She learns that safety isn't built through control, but through calm. Meditation, therapy, nature, anything that lowers cortisol becomes the new rebellion. The fourth is truth-telling. She stops calling avoidance healing and loneliness standards. She admits she's craving love without shame. The fifth is energy recalibration. She stops trying to match masculine energy and starts amplifying feminine energy, the kind that attracts through presence, not pursuit. The sixth is community over competition. She reconnects with women who celebrate her softness instead of shaming it. The seventh is curiosity over cynicism. Instead of assuming men can't meet her needs, she starts asking whether she's created space for them to. The eighth is gratitude for effort. She learns to reward consistency instead of chasing excitement. The ninth is embodiment. She returns to her body, to the quiet pulse beneath the armor. And the final counter-signal is grace. She forgives herself for believing strength required struggle. Resilience isn't about pretending she doesn't need anyone. It's about remembering she was never designed to thrive alone. When she stops confusing calm for boredom and realizes peace can still feel electric, she begins to attract what she's been searching for. Connection that doesn't demand she shrink to feel safe. The forces that keep modern women unhappy in love aren't men. They're mirrors. The first antagonist is cultural dissonance, a media machine that tells women to be independent queens by day and effortlessly desirable by night. It glorifies self-sufficiency while mocking softness, then blames women for being too masculine when that conditioning hardens them. The second is toxic feminism, not the equality movement itself, but its distorted offspring, the ideology that confuses interdependence with dependence and equates partnership with patriarchy. It convinced a generation that needing love makes you weak, while loneliness became a badge of empowerment. The third is algorithmic illusion. Social media amplifies fantasy and filters reality, creating expectations no human can meet. She sees endless highlight reels of affection, passion, and validation, and forgets that intimacy doesn't trend well. The fourth is therapy speak culture. Healing became an identity, not a journey. Every disappointment is labeled trauma, every disagreement toxic. Accountability dies under self-diagnosis. The fifth is economic inversion. Success replaced security, but money doesn't hug you back. The higher she climbs, the fewer people she trusts. The sixth is emotional outsourcing. Online coaches, podcasts, and influencers now play the role connection once did, but they can't reciprocate. The seventh is attention inflation. The abundance of choice eroded value. If everyone can be adored, no one truly is. The final amplifier is narrative fatigue. Every headline tells women what they deserve, but never how to sustain it. These forces profit from dissatisfaction, selling empowerment while manufacturing emptiness. But once a woman recognizes that, the spell breaks. Awareness is rebellion. The moment she stops consuming illusions and starts cultivating reality, she stops being sold happiness and starts creating it. When modern women can't find happiness in relationships, the fallout isn't dramatic. It's quiet and chronic. The first consequence is emotional fatigue, a permanent tiredness that no vacation or self-care ritual can cure. She keeps achieving but feels nothing. The second is intimacy distortion. She can't tell the difference between chemistry and chaos, mistaking adrenaline for attraction and calm for disinterest. The third is relationship burnout. Each failed attempt confirms her worst fear, that she's too much or that love is overrated. The fourth is spiritual disconnection. When love feels transactional, her soul stops showing up. She becomes a character in her own life, polished, productive, and profoundly numb. The fifth is hyper-independence turned isolation. What started as empowerment morphs into loneliness disguised as preference. I like my space, she says, but what she means is, no one feels safe enough to let in. The sixth is gender fatigue. She's tired of competing with men, tired of outperforming them, tired of being her own protector. The seventh is distrust. Every new man has to pay for the emotional debt of the last one. The eighth is intimacy inflation. Connection feels cheap because she spent too long buying validation. The ninth is internal mutiny. Her mind says she's fine, but her body betrays her. Tight chest, shallow breath, restless nights. The final consequence is emotional amnesia. She forgets what peace feels like and confuses numbness with healing. Over time, the craving for love doesn't disappear. It mutates. It becomes cynicism, the belief that needing anyone is a flaw. But the truth is simpler and crueler. Women aren't unhappier because they can't find love. They're unhappier because they stopped believing love was still safe to want. Reclaiming happiness doesn't come from rejecting independence. It comes from remembering what it was supposed to be for. Agency begins when a woman realizes strength without softness isn't liberation, it's exile. The first act of recovery is permission. She lets herself want love without apology. The second is reconnection. She starts leading with her essence, not her armor. She understands that vulnerability isn't regression, it's intelligence. The third is recalibration. She stops asking, "What do I deserve?" and starts asking, "What am I willing to nurture?" She realizes happiness doesn't come from being adored. It comes from being aligned. The fourth is discernment. She stops confusing emotional chaos for passion and learns that peace doesn't mean boredom, it means balance. The fifth is feminine reclamation. She reclaims her right to be nurturing, intuitive, and receptive without fearing that it makes her lesser. These aren't outdated traits, they're suppressed strengths. The sixth is embodiment. She stops overthinking her feelings and starts feeling her thoughts. The seventh is reciprocity. She no longer settles for men who drain her or fear men who can lead her. Equality, she learns, isn't sameness, it's synergy. The eighth is accountability. She stops blaming culture or men entirely and starts asking how she may have contributed to her own disconnection. Growth replaces grievance. And the final stage is grace. She forgives herself for believing happiness was a trophy instead of a rhythm. True agency isn't power over others, it's peace with oneself. When she learns that softness doesn't make her small and love doesn't make her weak, she stops performing perfection and starts living truth. That's where modern women rediscover happiness, not in having everything, but in finally wanting what actually matters. In the end, the modern woman's unhappiness in love isn't about men, it's about meaning. She was told she could have it all, but no one told her that all would come with no rest, no rhythm, and no reciprocity. The world gave her opportunity, but stole her permission to be human. The cost of progress was peace. Yet the truth she's slowly remembering is this: power without presence is poverty. The women who find happiness again aren't the ones who give up on independence. They're the ones who stop confusing it with isolation. They trade control for connection, validation for vulnerability, and performance for peace. They realize that partnership isn't submission, it's synergy. That the desire to be loved doesn't erase strength, it expresses it. Modern freedom was never supposed to exile femininity, it was supposed to free it. Love doesn't weaken her, it refines her. And when she learns that, everything changes. Relationships stop feeling like negotiations and start feeling like nourishment. The right man doesn't complete her, he complements her, creating balance where burnout once lived. But the final lesson is this: happiness in love isn't found by rejecting what's masculine, it's found by remembering what's feminine. Because the antidote to exhaustion isn't more independence, it's interdependence. So if she's wondering why love feels unreachable, maybe it's because she built her walls so high that even peace can't climb them. Tear them down. Let yourself be met. Happiness doesn't come when you stop needing anyone. It comes when you finally choose someone without losing yourself in the process.